Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, where small coins turn into big fortunes. If you're passionate about coin collecting, treasure hunting, or simply fascinated by the hidden history behind US currency, then this video is for you. Because today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and fascinating coins from the mid-20th century, the United States of America Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1967. Now, you might think that a coin from the late 1960s isn't particularly old or special. After all, millions of pennies were minted during that time, right? But as every true coin collector knows, it's not always about how many were made, it's about how they were made, the small differences that make one coin ordinary and another worth thousands of dollars. And trust me, the 1967 Lincoln cent hides some jaw-dropping secrets that could make even the most experienced collectors take a second look. So, if you've ever emptied your coin jar and found a 1967 penny, don't be too quick to spend it. Because one of these copper beauties has sold for an unbelievable amount, and you'll want to stick around till the very end to hear just how much that is. Let's rewind the clock for a moment and set the scene. The year was 1967. A time of great change and excitement in the United States. The country was in the middle of the space race, the Beatles were dominating the airwaves, and new technology was reshaping the world. Amidst all this progress and transformation, the U.S. Mint was also going through an important transition. The mid-1960s were a turbulent time for coin production in America, marked by metal shortages, design changes, and minting experiments that would leave collectors fascinated for decades to come. During this period, coin collecting had exploded in popularity. The U.S. Mint had faced widespread coin shortages in the early 1960s due to millions of people hoarding coins in hopes of finding valuable errors or rare mint marks. In response, the Mint made a bold decision. Between 1965 and 1967, they removed mint marks entirely from all coins. That means no matter where your 1967 Lincoln cent was made, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, you won't see a mint mark on it. This makes 1967 a very unique year in U.S. coinage history, standing as one of the few times mint marks were deliberately left off to discourage hoarding. Now, let's take a closer look at this coin's iconic design, one that's instantly recognizable to anyone who's ever held a penny. On the front, or obverse, we see the powerful and dignified portrait of Abraham Lincoln, created by sculptor Victor David Brenner back in 1909. Lincoln's image had already become a symbol of unity, strength, and integrity, and his presence on the penny carried deep historical meaning. Above his head, the words, "In God We Trust," remind us of the nation's enduring faith. To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the date, 1967. It's simple, balanced, and timeless, a design that has lasted for more than a century with only small changes. Now, flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side. This design, introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday, replaced the old wheat reverse. The memorial itself is a beautifully detailed miniature version of the real monument in Washington, D.C. And here's a fascinating detail. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can actually see a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. It's one of the smallest yet most intricate design features in U.S. coinage. The inscriptions, United States of America, and E pluribus unum, surround the top, while 1 cent boldly declares the denomination below. Even though it's small, this coin carries massive symbolism, freedom, unity, and national pride, all captured in a single piece of copper. Now, when it comes to production, the 1967 Lincoln cent was struck in enormous quantities. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced more than 3 billion of these coins. That's right, billions with a B. Because of that, most people assume that a 1967 penny isn't worth more than its face value. But here's where things get interesting. Not every coin is created equal. See, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different minting methods during this period. They were still fine-tuning their equipment after switching from silver coinage to clad compositions, and that means there were bound to be mistakes. And as collectors know, minting mistakes are the key to big money. Some 1967 Lincoln cents show striking errors that make them extremely valuable. One of the most famous types is the double die, where parts of the design, like the date or lettering, appear doubled due to a misalignment during the striking process. A clear and strong double die on a 1967 penny can dramatically increase its value, especially if it's on the obverse side. There are also known examples of off-center strikes, die cracks, and broad strikes, each of which adds to the rarity and appeal of these coins. Some coins were even struck on slightly mis-sized planchets, making them thinner or thicker than usual. Each one of these errors turns a normal penny into a unique collectible. Condition, as always, plays a huge role in determining value. Most 1967 pennies found in circulation are worn, scratched, or discolored. But coins that were saved right after minting, preserved in uncirculated or mint-state condition, are where the real treasure lies. These coins still glow with that rich, original coppery red color that collectors refer to as full red, and finding one in pristine shape is no easy feat. Grading services like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, evaluate coins on a 70-point scale. Coins graded mint state, 65 or higher, are considered exceptional, with nearly flawless surfaces, full luster, and strong details. A 1967 penny in mint state, 67 red, meaning it's in nearly perfect condition, can be worth hundreds, even thousands, of dollars depending on the market, but that's not all. 1967 was also a year of special proof-like and SMS coins, short for special mint sets. Because the U.S. Mint did not produce traditional proof coins between 1965 and 1967, they instead issued these special mint sets for collectors. These coins often have sharper details and a satin or glossy finish that sets them apart from regular circulation strikes. Some 1967 SMS pennies show deep cameo contrast, where Lincoln's portrait appears frosted against a mirror-like background. These are extremely rare and sought after by serious collectors. Now let's talk about why collectors go absolutely crazy for the 1967 penny. It's not just because of the design or the history, it's the combination of everything. The era of experimentation, the missing mint marks, the production quirks, and the transition between old and new minting techniques make this coin a true piece of numismatic history. Finding a 1967 penny in exceptional condition is like finding a time capsule from the past. It tells the story of a turbulent yet fascinating period in America's coinage history, a time when the mint was pushing boundaries and collectors were discovering a whole new world of possibilities. So, imagine this. You're sorting through a collection of old coins that your parents or grandparents tucked away decades ago. Among the nickels and dimes, you spot a shiny copper coin dated 1967. It's smooth, bright, and full of luster. You take a closer look, and maybe, just maybe, it's one of those rare, perfectly struck coins that collectors dream about. That's the thrill of coin collecting. Every coin has a story, and every story has the potential to be worth something extraordinary. And the 1967 Lincoln cent is the perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can hold incredible value. Now for the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1967 pennies might only be worth a few cents in circulated condition, a high-grade, mint-state example with beautiful luster and no flaws has sold at auction for a jaw-dropping amount. One of the most stunning and perfectly preserved United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1967 was sold for an unbelievable $81,000. Yes, you heard that right. $81,000 for a single penny. So the next time you're going through your pocket change, don't overlook those older coins. You might be holding a little piece of American history that's worth far more than you ever imagined. Today, get ready for a fascinating and exciting journey into the story of one of America's most well-known and widely circulated coins, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1975. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny from the 1970s, how special could it be? Well, you're about to be surprised. Because this little copper coin, something so common that millions of people have handled it without thinking twice, could actually be hiding incredible value. In fact, under the right conditions, a single 1975 Lincoln penny has sold for an absolutely unbelievable amount of money. Stay tuned until the very end, because you won't want to miss the shocking value this humble penny can reach. To really appreciate the story of the 1975 Lincoln penny, we have to travel back in time, to an era of bold design, economic change, and American spirit. The mid-1970s were a fascinating period in U.S. history. The nation was recovering from the Vietnam War, adjusting to new political realities, and experiencing the rise of new cultural movements. Gas prices were climbing, inflation was in the air, and every cent, quite literally, mattered. Amid all of this, the familiar Lincoln penny continued to serve as one of the most trusted and recognized symbols of American money. The Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909, when it was introduced to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by the sculptor Victor David Brenner, the coin became an instant classic. His design was powerful yet simple, the dignified portrait of Lincoln on the front, with "In God We Trust" across the top, "Liberty" to the left, and the year of minting to the right. This design has lasted for generations, becoming one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. Now, by 1975, the penny still carried Brenner's iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, but the reverse side featured the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday. If you take a close look at this side of the coin, you'll notice something fascinating: a tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial. Yes, even on a 1-cent coin, the U.S. Mint managed to include an intricate detail like that. It's an amazing piece of artistry and symbolism, reminding us of Lincoln's everlasting legacy. Let's talk about the technical details that make the 1975 penny special. These coins were made primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that warm reddish-brown color that collectors adore. Each penny weighs about 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters. This composition makes them heavier and more durable than the modern zinc-based pennies we use today, which started production in 1982. So, a 1975 penny is one of the last generations of truly solid copper cents, and that alone adds to its collector appeal. Now, during 1975, the U.S. Mint produced pennies at 3 locations: Philadelphia, which struck coins without a mint mark; Denver, marked with a D; and San Francisco, marked with an S. The San Francisco Mint primarily produced proof coins, highly polished and detailed coins made especially for collectors. Proof coins from this year can be exceptionally beautiful, with a mirror-like background and sharp details that stand out dramatically. But here's where it gets exciting: not all 1975 pennies are the same. Some were struck slightly off, while others show small errors or variations that make them incredibly valuable today. Let's start with minting errors, because that's where the real treasure hunt begins. In 1975, millions of pennies were struck, and even a small slip-up during the minting process could create a collectible rarity. Some of the most sought-after types include double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears doubled. When you look closely, you might see the word "Liberty" or the year 1975 slightly repeated or shadowed, a clear sign of a double die error. These coins are extremely valuable, especially if the doubling is sharp and visible to the naked eye. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike, where the coin design isn't properly aligned with the planchet, the blank metal disc used to make coins. This causes part of the design to appear shifted or incomplete. Depending on how off-center the strike is, these coins can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Then there are clipped planchets, where a small portion of the coin's edge is missing because the blank was cut incorrectly. These unusual coins are highly collectible because no two are exactly alike. Beyond errors, condition plays an enormous role in determining the 1975 penny's value. Coins that have been used in everyday transactions tend to show scratches, dirt, or discoloration, what collectors call circulated condition. These are common and usually not worth much beyond their face value. But coins that have never been used, the ones that still shine like they just left the mint, are in uncirculated or mint state condition. These can be worth much more, especially if they're professionally graded. Grading services like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, use a scale from 1 to 70, with higher grades meaning better condition. A 1975 Lincoln penny graded MS 67 or MS 68 red, meaning it retains its full red copper color and shows no visible flaws, is considered incredibly rare. Most coins from this year show some toning or darkening, so a perfectly red, spotless penny is a real prize. Let's not forget the proof coins from San Francisco. These coins were specially struck using polished dies and planchets, giving them mirror-like finishes. A perfect 1975 S-proof Lincoln penny can be breathtaking. The gleaming fields, frosted portrait, and detailed memorial make them miniature works of art. High-grade proof examples with deep cameo contrast are particularly valuable, especially when graded PR 69 or higher. So why is the 1975 penny such a favorite among collectors today? Well, it represents an important period in American coinage, the final era of traditional copper pennies before the big shift to zinc. It's also a coin that bridges generations. Many people who grew up in the 1970s remember using these exact pennies every day, buying candy, saving change in jars, or starting their first coin collections. For collectors today, it's not just about the metal, it's about the story, the nostalgia, and the history that each coin carries, but the real thrill comes from the possibility that one small coin could be worth far more than anyone would expect. Imagine sorting through your change, spotting a 1975 penny, and realizing it's in near-perfect condition, shiny, red, and free from wear. Maybe it even has a subtle minting error. At first glance, it's just 1 cent, but under a collector's magnifying glass, it could be a tiny treasure, and that's the beauty of coin collecting, the magic of turning something ordinary into something extraordinary. Every penny tells a story, and some stories are worth a fortune. Now, it's time for the part you've all been waiting for, the value reveal. While most 1975 pennies might just be worth a cent or two, a rare and flawless specimen, preserved in perfect mint state condition with no visible flaws and full red luster, can fetch a staggering amount of money. One of the finest known examples of the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1975, in absolutely pristine condition, once sold for an astonishing $74,600, yes, you heard that right, $74,600 for a single penny. So the next time you check your spare change, don't overlook that 1975 Lincoln penny sitting in your hand. Take a closer look, examine the details, and who knows, you might just be holding a small copper coin worth more than a brand new car. Today, we're taking a fascinating deep dive into a truly remarkable piece of American history, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1978. Now, most people glance at a penny and think, it's just 1 cent. But as every collector knows, some of these little copper coins carry stories, mysteries, and sometimes, unbelievable value. The 1978 Lincoln penny might just be one of those coins. It may look simple, but behind that reddish shine lies a world of rarity, beauty, and hidden worth that can astonish even experienced numismatists. So grab your magnifying glass, settle in, and let's journey back to 1978, a year that left a lasting mark on both American culture and coinage history. The late 1970s were a time of change and challenge for the United States. The economy was struggling with inflation, the dollar was losing strength, and metal prices were rising fast. The country was transitioning toward a new era of technology, music, and political shifts, and in the middle of all this, the humble Lincoln penny remained a symbol of American resilience. The 1978 penny continues a legacy that started almost 70 years earlier. The Lincoln Cent series first appeared in 1909, when the U.S. Mint introduced it to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, the man whose leadership and legacy reshaped the nation. The coin's designer, Victor David Brenner, crafted one of the most enduring designs in U.S. coinage history. His portrait of Lincoln, serious yet compassionate, became an icon of American values, honesty, unity, and strength. By 1978, the design had changed slightly over the decades but still carried that same powerful image of Lincoln on the obverse. You'll see, "In God We Trust," across the top, "Liberty" on the left, and the year, 1978, on the right. Below Lincoln's portrait, you might find a small D mint mark, for Denver, or no mint mark at all, indicating it was struck in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the elegant Lincoln memorial on the reverse. Introduced in 1959 to celebrate Lincoln's 150th birthday, this reverse design replaced the old wheat stalks that had appeared on the original cents. The Lincoln Memorial design is an incredible work of miniature art. With a magnifying glass, you can actually see the tiny statue of Lincoln seated inside the memorial, a tiny detail most people overlook but one that collectors absolutely love. It's like holding a little piece of architecture in the palm of your hand. Now, let's talk about the physical details of this coin, because they play an important role in its value. The 1978 Lincoln penny was made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams. That's heavier than the pennies minted after 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched to cheaper zinc planchets due to rising copper costs. So if you have a 1978 penny, you're holding one of the last true solid copper coins, a material that not only feels substantial but also adds collectible appeal. The U.S. Mint produced these pennies at two main locations that year, Philadelphia and Denver, and the total mintage numbers were massive, reaching into the billions. That's why so many people think these coins are common and not worth saving. But here's the truth: rarity is not always about quantity, it's about condition, details, and errors, and that's where things get interesting. The 1978 Lincoln penny is famous among collectors for its striking errors and variations, those tiny mistakes made during the minting process that make certain coins stand out from the rest. Some 1978 pennies show double die errors, where the letters or numbers appear slightly double due to a misalignment during the striking process. When you look closely at the date, 1978, or the word Liberty, you might notice a faint shadowing or doubling, a clear sign of this minting anomaly. Coins with this kind of visible doubling can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Other rare errors include off-center strikes, where the coin design is shifted or incomplete, and broad strikes, where the edges are stretched out due to the absence of the retaining collar during striking. There are also die cracks and fill die errors, which create raised lines or missing letters on the coin's surface. These imperfections are like fingerprints, each one is unique, and collectors love them because no two are exactly alike. Another factor that drives the 1978 penny's value is its condition. As you probably know, the vast majority of these pennies were used in everyday transactions, tossed in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and rattled around in jars. Over the years, most of them became scratched, dull, or darkened by oxidation. But a select few managed to survive in perfect, mint-state condition, shiny, spotless, and uncirculated. Professional grading services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, evaluate these coins and assign them a grade on a scale from 1 to 70. A 1978 Lincoln penny in mint state 60 or higher is already considered a gem. But a coin graded MS 67 or MS 68 red, meaning it still shines with that original copper luster and has absolutely no blemishes visible under magnification, is extremely rare. These are the coins that make collectors' hearts race, and let's not forget the proof coin struck at the San Francisco Mint. These were made for collectors using specially prepared dies and planchets to achieve a mirror-like finish. The proof 1978 S Lincoln penny, with its deep cameo contrast, frosted portrait and mirror background, is a stunning piece of art. High-grade examples, especially those graded PR 69 deep cameo, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars on their own, but beyond the grades and errors, there's something poetic about the 1978 Lincoln penny. It marks the end of an era, the final stretch before the U.S. Mint made major changes to the composition and production of coins in the early 1980s. It's also a symbol of a simpler time, when pennies still had weight and presence, when people saved change in jars and coin albums, and when finding a shiny penny was a sign of good luck. Many collectors today feel a deep connection to coins like the 1978 penny. It's not just metal, it's memory. Maybe your grandparents had a few of these tucked away in an old coffee can or an antique drawer. Maybe you've seen one in your childhood piggy bank. Every one of these coins has traveled through time and touched countless hands, from grocery stores and vending machines to collectors' displays. Now imagine this: you're sorting through an old collection, maybe inherited from a family member, and you spot a 1978 penny. You pick it up, it gleams more brightly than the rest. You look closer under a light. The color is vivid, the strike is strong, and there are no scratches or wear. That's when your heart skips a beat, because you might just be holding a treasure, one of the finest surviving examples from that year, and yes, it happens. Because while most 1978 pennies are common, the rarest, highest-grade examples have sold for astonishing sums at major coin auctions. Collectors are willing to pay big money for perfection, and that's why people around the world still dream of finding one of these gems. Now, for the moment you've all been waiting for, the value reveal. While most circulated 1978 pennies might only be worth a cent or two, the rarest of the rare, those in pristine, top-graded, mint-state condition with their full original red copper shine, can command unbelievable prices. 1 Exceptional United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1978, graded among the highest possible mint states and preserved in flawless red condition, was once sold for a breathtaking $70,300. Yes, you heard that right, $70,300 for a single penny. It's incredible to think that something so small, something most people overlook every single day, could hold that kind of value. But that's the magic of coin collecting. It's part history, part art, and part treasure hunt. You never know when an ordinary coin might turn into an extraordinary find. So, the next time you check your spare change, take a second look at those pennies. You might just discover a piece of history worth more than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of one of America's most iconic and enduring coins, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1981. Now, before you shrug and think, it's just a penny, let me tell you, the 1981 Lincoln cent holds a special place in U.S. coin history. It's one of the last years of an era, a coin that marks the end of the full copper cent and the beginning of major changes in American coinage. What seems like a simple coin actually carries stories of transition, rarity, and incredible value. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why collectors are still searching for that one perfect 1981 penny that could be worth thousands of dollars. Let's rewind time to the early 1980s, a time when America was shifting in many ways. Inflation was high, technology was advancing, and the price of copper was rising sharply. For the U.S. Mint, this created a major problem. The cost of making a single 1-cent coin was becoming dangerously close to the coin's actual value. Yes, you heard that right, it was costing almost 1 cent just to make a penny, so 1981 became one of the most significant years in the Lincoln cent series because it was the final full year that the U.S. Mint struck pennies made from 95% copper. The following year, in 1982, the Mint transitioned to a cheaper copper-plated zinc composition to save costs. That means every 1981 penny you find today is one of the last true solid copper cents ever made, and that alone makes it a piece of history worth holding onto. Now, let's take a closer look at the design that has captured hearts for over a century. On the obverse, or front side, you'll see the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by the talented sculptor Victor David Brenner in 1909. Lincoln's dignified profile, facing right, represents not only the 16th President of the United States but also American values, honesty, strength, and perseverance. Above his head reads, "In God We Trust," with "Liberty" to his left and the date, 1981, to his right. If you look closely, just below the date, you might notice a small mint mark, a D for Denver, an S for San Francisco, or no mark at all for Philadelphia. Flip the coin over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This design replaced the original wheat ears back in 1959, and it's a tribute to Lincoln's legacy of unity and freedom. If you look very closely, especially with a magnifying glass, you can actually see a tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. It's an amazing detail that shows just how much artistry went into this small piece of metal. Now, let's talk about the physical makeup of this coin. The 1981 penny was struck from 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing approximately 3.11 grams. It measures 19 millimeters in diameter and features a smooth, plain edge. This heavier, solid copper construction gives it a distinct feel compared to modern pennies, which are lighter due to their zinc cores. Here's where things start to get really interesting. the minting variations and errors that can make a 1981 Lincoln penny extremely valuable. You see, even though billions of these coins were made, not all of them came out perfectly. During mass production, small mistakes occurred that made some coins unique, and collectors pay serious money for those one-of-a-kind errors. For example, some 1981 pennies were struck using worn or misaligned dies, resulting in double die errors. This means certain parts of the coin, like the date, the word liberty, or even, in God we trust, appear doubled or shadowed. If you notice even the slightest doubling under magnification, you could be holding a coin worth far more than face value. Another known error is the off-center strike, where the coin design is shifted noticeably to one side. Some coins show a missing part of Lincoln's bust or an incomplete date, and the more off-center it is, without losing key details like the date, the more valuable it becomes. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin expands outward beyond its normal circular shape due to a missing retaining collar during striking. And then there are die cracks, die chips, and filled die errors, which create raised lines or missing letters on the surface. Each of these minting mistakes adds character, rarity, and, of course, monetary value, but even without errors, condition plays a massive role in determining the 1981 penny's worth. Over the years, most of these coins have been circulated countless times, passed through stores, dropped on sidewalks, and worn down by decades of use. But a few have survived in perfect, untouched condition, known as mint state. Professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, examine coins under magnification and assign them a grade from 1 to 70. A coin graded MS 65 or higher is considered gem quality. It means the coin has its original luster, sharp details, and no visible wear. A grade of MS 67 or MS 68 red, which indicates the coin still has that brilliant copper shine with no discoloration, is extremely rare for a 1981 penny. And those are the coins that make collectors go wild at auctions. But let's not forget the proof coin struck at the San Francisco Mint. Proof 1981's Lincoln pennies were specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets, giving them that incredible mirror-like finish. There's even a fascinating variation known as the Type 1 and Type 2 proofs. The Type 1 has a filled S mint mark, while the Type 2 shows a clear, sharper S. The Type 2 proof coins are rarer and often sell for significantly more money, especially in high grades like PR69 Deep Cameo. Now, you might be wondering, how do you know if your 1981 penny is valuable? Well, here's what to look for. First, check for the mint mark. Coins from the Denver Mint, D, and San Francisco Mint, S, can be more desirable in pristine condition. Next, examine the color and luster. A brilliant red coin with no scratches or dull spots is far more valuable than a brown or worn one. Finally, check for doubling, off-center strikes, or other unique features. These are what transform a regular penny into a collector's dream. Many collectors underestimate the importance of this coin, but the 1981 Lincoln penny marks a turning point in U.S. coinage history. It's literally the last of its kind. Once 1982 arrived, the U.S. Mint switched to zinc-based pennies weighing only 2.5 grams. That makes every 1981 penny a relic of the true copper era, a symbol of durability and tradition. And think about it, how many of these have been melted down, lost, or worn beyond recognition over the years? That makes well-preserved 1981 pennies even more desirable to serious collectors. Just imagine for a moment, you're sorting through an old coin jar, maybe one that's been sitting in your grandparents' house for decades. You pick out a shiny copper penny dated 1981. You hold it up under the light, and it gleams perfectly. No scratches, no wear, a brilliant red glow just like the day it left the mint. You send it in for grading, and it comes back as one of the highest mint state grades possible. That tiny coin, once worth a single cent, suddenly transforms into a treasure worth thousands. And now, the part you've been waiting for, the value reveal. While most circulated 1981 pennies might be worth only a few cents to collectors, the rarest examples, those struck perfectly, preserved flawlessly, and graded at the top of the scale, have sold for incredible prices at major auctions. One extraordinary United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1981, graded in exceptional mint state red condition, fetched a jaw-dropping $47,300. Yes, you heard that correctly, $47,300 for a single copper penny. It's unbelievable to think that something so tiny, so common in appearance, could hold such immense value. But that's the beauty of coin collecting, it's a combination of art, history, and luck. Every penny has a story, and sometimes, that story is worth a fortune. So the next time you come across a 1981 penny, don't ignore it. Take a moment to really look at it, its color, its condition, its mint mark. You might just be holding one of the last pure copper cents ever made, and if you're lucky, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Today, we're going to uncover the incredible story of one of the most talked about coins in American numismatic history, the United States of America 1-cent Lincoln penny from 1982. This coin might look ordinary at first glance, but don't be fooled. Behind its copper shine lies a mystery, a major change in American coinage, and a hidden value that could surprise even the most seasoned collectors. So grab your magnifying glass, sit back, and let's explore the world of the 1982 Lincoln penny, a tiny coin with a story worth thousands. The year 1982 was a turning point for the U.S. Mint and for the Lincoln cent itself. For more than a century, the American 1-cent coin had been made primarily from copper, giving it that classic reddish tone collectors love. But in 1982, something huge happened. The U.S. Mint decided to change the metal composition of the penny. Why? Because the price of copper had skyrocketed so much that it was actually worth more than the face value of the coin itself. Imagine that. Producing 1 cent cost more than a cent. So, the government had to make a big decision. As a result, 1982 became the only year in U.S. history when two major compositions of the penny were produced, one made of 95% copper and another made of a zinc core with only a thin copper coating. This dramatic change created not just a new coin but also a fascinating set of varieties that collectors have been chasing for decades. During that year, the Mint released 7 different types of Lincoln cents. Yes, 7. There were 1982 pennies with both small and large date designs, and each of those came in both copper and zinc compositions. Plus, the Denver Mint struck its own versions marked with the D Mint mark. This unique overlap of styles, metals, and mint marks has made 1982 pennies one of the most confusing but exciting coins in American numismatics. But what makes this particular year's penny so special and potentially valuable? The answer lies in identifying the right combination of features. Some 1982 pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchet, that is, a coin blank made of the opposite material than intended. For example, a few pennies were struck using the copper composition when the Mint had already switched to zinc. These so-called transitional errors are among the most sought after by collectors because they are literal mistakes of history, rare, unintentional survivors of a moment of change. Imagine finding one of these rare transitional 1982 copper pennies mixed in with your spare change. To the untrained eye, it might look like just another old cent. But to a collector, it's like finding a hidden gem. The first step to identifying one of these valuable coins is to look at the date and the mint mark. Then, you'll need to determine its weight. The copper pennies from early 1982 weigh about 3.11 grams, while the zinc ones introduced later in the year weigh around 2.5 grams. That tiny difference can mean the world, because it's the key to discovering whether you've got an ordinary coin or one worth thousands. Collectors all over the United States use simple digital scales to weigh their 1982 pennies. Finding a 1982 D small date penny made of copper, for instance, is like striking gold, because very few of them are known to exist. Some experts believe only a handful survived the transition, making them incredibly scarce and desirable. And scarcity, of course, is the heart of what gives any coin its value. Now let's talk about design. The obverse of the 1982 penny continues the beloved portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. It's a tribute that has graced the U.S. 1-cent piece since 1909, marking one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Lincoln's calm, dignified face symbolizes unity and strength, and every time we hold one of these coins, we hold a small piece of that legacy. The reverse side still features the stately Lincoln Memorial, a powerful symbol of freedom and equality that reminds us of the ideals Lincoln stood for, but while the design stayed the same in 1982, the story behind the medal was changing forever. The shift from copper to zinc wasn't just a technical change, it marked the end of an era. For coin collectors and historians alike, this transformation makes 1982 a milestone year, the last time the classic heavy copper pennies were ever minted for circulation in the United States. Over the decades, these coins have sparked debates, excitement, and even treasure hunts. Many people have gone back through jars, drawers, and old boxes of pennies, hoping to find that rare transitional error or that uncirculated beauty from 1982 that could change their fortunes. And yes, they exist, tucked away among billions of ordinary cents. Collectors love to talk about condition when it comes to value, and the 1982 penny is no exception. The better the condition, the higher the value. Coins that have never been used, called uncirculated or mint state pennies, are prized the most. The shine, sharpness, and luster of these coins tell a story of preservation and history frozen in time. Now, here's something fascinating. Because of the mix of varieties, small date, large date, copper, zinc, Denver mint, and Philadelphia mint, every 1982 penny tells a different story. Some are common, others incredibly rare. And some, like the 1982 D small date copper penny, are so scarce that finding one feels almost impossible. Yet, a few lucky individuals have found them, verified them, and sold them for astonishing prices at auctions. Collectors today know that these coins are among the top searches in coin forums, appraisal sites, and coin shows. People are still weighing their 1982 pennies, hunting for the one that stands out from the rest. The excitement around this coin hasn't faded, it's actually grown as more discoveries come to light and more people learn about the significance of the 1982 transition. What makes the story even more exciting is that most of these valuable coins were discovered by everyday people, not professional collectors. Someone checking their old change, someone organizing their collection, or even a curious person watching a video like this one and deciding to check their old jar of pennies could stumble upon a coin worth more than they ever imagined. So, what should you do if you have a 1982 Lincoln penny? First, separate them by date and mint mark. Then, weigh them carefully. If you find one that weighs around 3.11 grams but has a design combination that shouldn't exist in copper, you might be holding one of the rarest U.S. coins of the 20th century. Always verify with a trusted coin dealer or get it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC to confirm its authenticity. The certification will not only prove your coin's legitimacy but also maximize its potential value if you decide to sell. Now comes the moment you've been waiting for. Among the rarest and most valuable 1982 Lincoln pennies ever discovered, one particular specimen, the elusive 1982 D small date copper penny, has sold for an astonishing $40,500. Yes, that's right, a single 1-cent coin, minted more than 4 decades ago, can be worth $40,500 today. So before you toss aside that jar of old pennies, take a closer look. You never know, your pocket change could hold a piece of American history worth a small fortune. And that wraps up today's deep dive into one of the most intriguing coins in U.S. history. If you enjoyed this journey through the story, mystery, and hidden value of the 1982 Lincoln penny, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another story about rare and valuable coins. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy collecting, treasure hunters.